Okay, can everybody hear me? Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. Test, test. I'm just making sure that the audio is working. Um, anyway, hope that's all going. Okay, so thank you so much. Excited to share with you what we have today. Thank you for joining me on this monthly coaching call. And if you are joining us late, either if you come in a little bit late and you're catching the replay of this, hopefully what we have here helps you with where you're at. Let me just give you kind of an overview of what we're going to do. First of all, I'm going to give a little bit of training on some things that I've learned lately that I'd love to share. And then I'd like to open it up for coaching. So anybody that has any question, we'll just kind of unmute at that time and yeah, then ask your questions, and hopefully we can be really specific on answering what you have right now, wherever you're at right now, that we can help you with that. Hope that makes sense. So I'm recording this. It'll be archived, so if you're listening to the archives, that's what it is. Okay, first of all, I want to tell you just kind of some of the cool stuff that's been going on lately. I don't know if you're following my YouTube show, but I've had a YouTube show. I think I'm into episode 120. It's been a daily show. It's been this amazing journey where basically I took this idea that I had heard from so many different personal development speakers who talked about how we create our own environments, we create our own realities. And I was like, what does that mean? Because I couldn't quite get my hands around it, but I have come to find that the things that we believe really matter, and we do create our reality, whether that means we create the habits that that then produce the results, or if we actually have unseen power that can do some amazing things, such as the placebo effect. And I talked to a guy this last week. I'm going to interview him. He has MS, and he got it about 8 years ago. And whenever I hear MS, I think, oh my gosh, that is the end. It's this downward spiral, and generally it's a pretty fast demise. But for him, he read a bunch of things, and he decided he was going to take things into his own hands, and he started to kind of shift his belief system to where he altered a bunch of things in his belief system as well as his diet. And he reversed blindness. He was going blind at the time. He reversed that, and now he is really quite healthy and is doing some amazing things. I talked to a lady on the phone. I'm hopefully going to interview her this next weekend. She's coming in town, and she had type 1 diabetes and was able to reverse that simply by her thoughts. So, I've been studying the placebo. I've been studying like the power of our minds and creating it around this YouTube show. So if you've checked that out before, it's called Are We Novice Gods? In other words, do we have more power within us to where we can create the world around us? It's been an interesting kind of documentary journey as I've been looking at that, and hopefully you've enjoyed that. Well, today marks a shift because I am changing that show. It will now be more of like a weekly show, and I've got a new daily show. And it's called Strategic Beliefs and Core Stories. Because what I have found in talking to so many different people, that it's really what we believe, whether we have these limiting beliefs that are holding us back, or we have empowering beliefs that are going to propel us forward, that makes a huge difference. And a lot of times we can't embrace new beliefs until we change our core stories. So those are the two most important things for change, is having a belief system and an identity about who you believe you are and what you're capable of that really makes a difference. So brand new show just launched today, Strategic Beliefs and Core Stories, how to get over yourself so you can get what you want. So super excited. If you want to check that out, that is at youtube.com/Scott Wilhite. So hopefully that is something that holds value for you. I think if you're on my mailing list, you'll get a weekly email, so you'll be able to find out about all the shows and the topics and the things. Now, I want to just kind of in the coaching here, well, in the training part, I want to talk a little bit about some of the show discoveries. I told you a little bit about some people I have yet to interview, but I've met some amazing people who have used different things in their lives to change their lives. Richard was an amazing interview. Richard Worthington. I met him at a personal development conference. Amazing guy. He had a horrible car wreck that left him with a brain injury that basically put him in bed. He was flat on his back for like 6 weeks, and he got really acquainted with himself, and he got to just really evaluate his thoughts and who he was and what he's about. And one of the things that he discovered was the power of forgiveness. He'd never used that before. He'd thought of it in kind of a religious sense, but he'd never embraced it as what it could do for him. So he began using the power of forgiveness in forgiving himself from limiting beliefs. That was kind of a really cool aha for me. And hopefully if you checked out that show, hopefully that kind of gave you some ideas on how to get over some things that are holding us back. For instance, for him, I think he's 39 or something like that, and he had told himself, because every member of his family had gotten married late in life, he had told himself, that's just how life is for me. That's what's going to happen to me. That's what I can expect. And even though he tried to change his future, it didn't work out for him until he forgave himself for having these limiting beliefs. So anyway, I thought that was really cool. I thought that would be kind of a cool thing to share. So the new show, let's see, Strategic Beliefs and Core Stories. And I hope that what we share in there is going to be really enlightening for you to help you with whatever is holding you back. If you can change what you're focusing on, if you can change what your current belief system is around that, and then you rewrite the core stories that are just so deeply embedded in you, that's where you really tap into what you truly believe. So I hope you enjoy the show as that continues. And so anyway, that's just a little bit about it. I will share just a few stories that kind of pull into that. The first one is that, so years ago, so I'm a commercial filmmaker, and years ago I was invited to go to Mongolia to film this amazing thing that was going on, and they had this American doctor that was restoring sight to the blind. Can you imagine that? Can you believe what that must be like? That's like a miracle, like that you'd find in the Bible or something like that. I have never heard of a doctor restoring sight to anybody. I've seen, at least on TV, I've seen them revive people that have had heart attacks. I've seen them bring people back from the dead. I know that when people drown, that they can revive them, but I have never seen somebody that was blind get their eyesight again. Well, just imagine you're on the film crew with me. So you're excited to, we're all excited to go there. We're going to take 5 different flights to get there, and we have a bunch of time to kind of talk as we're in one of the airport terminals. And as we sit there, we're, kind of chatting about what are we going to see? What are we going to film? And somebody points out, okay, what if there's this old farmer and we get to capture him seeing his grandchild for the first time? We just kind of get chills as we think about that. And somebody else points out, okay, what if this mother and daughter come to the hospital just in their best dressed clothes, so excited so that when the gauze is removed from the oldest daughter's eyes, she sees them at their best. We're just so excited about that. And we can't figure out what is going on with the doctor. We don't have a lot of details. My guess is that he's probably developed some procedure that is so cutting edge that he can't get FDA approval on it really fast. And so he's testing this out on Mongolian people who won't sue him if he messes things up. But anyway, we land in Ulaanbaatar. We take a bus up to Darhan, which is, I don't know, it's a few hours north. And there are people already there, and they're lined up. There's this fence surrounding the whole building, and they are just pressed in against this wrought iron fence. You can see their arms kind of hanging out as they're just packed in. They can't, I mean, they're just so excited, hoping that they can get in and be able to see this doctor. Well, it turns out that the doctor's not there. He's overperforming surgery. They are doing screening. So anybody that passes that screening gets in. And just kind of imagine for yourself, I mean, if you were blind or if you were having vision problems and somebody was coming that could help you with that, how early would you get up? You know, would you be in the front of the line or would you be in the back of the line? How far would you travel in order to have your sight restored to you? I've kind of thought about that myself. Well, the next morning we get up and we go to the OR and we are preparing to film this. So you're in the OR with me and we realize immediately that something may be wrong. This may not be the technical advance that we thought, because there's a big hole in the window where the window is cracked. And on the floor, there's a whole bunch of bird poop from the birds that have flown in. And it's right around this vodka bottle that was used as the anesthesia for a previous operation. Not really sure what's going on. Well, now we got the camera all ready. We're looking, and the doctor is leading the first patient in, and she's all prepped with the stuff around her head, and he's gently taking her, leading her to the bed, and we're filming this, a beautiful wide shot as he tenderly puts her down. And then we move in as he starts to work, and we get in even closer as he really starts to get in there, and we're right next to the doctor, and I whisper to him, "What are you adding to her eyeball?" And he looks at me for a second and he says, "I'm not doing any of that. I'm simply removing her cataract." Now, do you know what cataracts are? Are you familiar with those? It's kind of this clouding that goes on over your eyes. It's kind of like with your car headlights. You know how they kind of fog up over time? Well, this is removing that. And in the United States and in developing countries, we get cataracts removed kind of like we get our teeth cleaned. It's just a simple procedure that we do that clears everything up. But in Mongolia, they didn't know about that. And so life just got cloudier and cloudier and darker for them. And they didn't know they didn't have to be blind. Now, here's the thing. You and I both have mental cataracts. We have this clouding of our mind that has taken place where we can't see things clearly, even if it's right in front of our face. And it takes time, and often it takes somebody else to recognize that cloudiness and that darkness and the obscurity that we're not being able to see right. And so, you know, we just need to pay attention that these things may show up in our lives as we have these psychological cataracts. Well, that's kind of what the idea is behind understanding our belief system, understanding what we truly believe inside and how that's going to manifest into our life. I hope that makes sense to you. Let's see. I wanted to share one other thing. Okay. And I'm a little bit embarrassed to talk about this. I shared this on a show today, but I wanted to share kind of how I got here, why I'm doing this, and what was going on. So a number of years ago, I was called into my boss's office. And as I'm in there, I am told that I have been investigated. I have been investigated for sexual harassment. My jaw hits the floor. I can't believe it. What are they talking about? Now, before you get too excited and start kind of conjuring up what I may have done, let me just share with you that there's a part of, I don't know what you'd call it, like a clause in that category, but there's a part of that category in sexual harassment that is about if you create a hostile work environment, you are guilty of sexual harassment. Well, then that's what I was being accused of, is that I was creating a hostile work environment. And I had to think back, and and then he proceeds to tell me about all the employees that he's interviewed and all the things that they've said about me. And I can't believe it. I mean, I'm thinking, this is this is just how life is for me. I'm a creative guy. This is, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit of a prima donna, but I'm so good creatively. It's this passion. It's just, this is who I am. This is just what I'm about. And then as I started to think about like story after story after story of all these people that he interviewed that were saying the same thing about how angry and volatile I was. And then I started to think about my family, and I started to think about how they were responding around me and how I was around them, because yeah, I knew I was angry. I knew I was volatile, and I'm starting to kind of come to some acceptance of that and recognizing. But you know what? I knew what was wrong. I needed a new job. I needed a different job, something better, and I needed to move on to something different. That's where I was when I first discovered I had mental cataracts, because I was telling myself, this is just how life is for me. And I was stuck in that mindset that was not going to serve me. It was not going to help me. And it was destroying my family. It was destroying my peace. And it really could have destroyed my life had I not been helped by some really kind people who had discovered amazing things and shared it with me. And that's kind of when I first became aware, oh my goodness, what we focus on matters, what we believe about ourselves matter. We have the opportunity to change our focus, to change our opinion, to rewire our mindset. And anyway, that's when life started to change for me. So I just wanted to share that with you. Hopefully that kind of gets you kind of an understanding that I'm just a guy who's figuring this stuff out and sharing it with you as fast as I can, so that if you are in that place, if you're in a place where life feels dark, or where you have tons of frustration, or you realizing, oh my goodness, this is not who I am. This is not who I intended to be. Why am I like this? Or if you recognize yourself telling yourself, this is how life is for me, and you kind of throw up your hands and in frustration and kind of succumb, I just want you to know it is possible to absolutely change everything in your life. And it happens by being very deliberate and intentional about your mindset. So anyway, hopefully that kind of helps you get just a little bit of an understanding about where I've been, what I found, and just happy to share everything along this journey. So I kind of feel like I've talked a lot with this. I want to get into coaching, and just any questions, anything that you're doing right now or in your life right now. So get your questions ready there. I just want to just touch on two last things before we jump into that. And that is that, and this is what I'm doing with this new show, and I'm going to write a book on it, but it is really our identity and our limiting beliefs that are holding us back. And so you may have picked up on the fact that I said, this is just how life is for me. I identified myself as a prima donna. I identified myself as, I kind of pigeonholed into who I was and what I was about. And I thought that's just how life had to be. Just like those blind Mongolians who kind of gave up and thought, this is my lot in life. If we can remove these mental cataracts, if we can get rid of these and get clarity of vision, if we can figure out our identity and be strategic about what we believe, it's going to make a huge difference. So anyway, I just want to share that with you. And then now let's jump into coaching. So I don't know if I need to unmute. I'm still kind of new to this technology. Let's see. I can unmute you if you have a question. Let's see, how do we do this? So I'm going to unmute everyone. And if you have a question, please feel free to jump in and ask any question. Okay, and we may have some people that are not able to, because I know there's some phone stuff that sometimes doesn't work. But wait for just another minute. Okay. Well, if you don't mind, I'll just kind of keep talking and just share a few other things that hopefully will help you with wherever you're at. Um, I think we're all on a journey. We're all discovering some things that hopefully life is advancing for us. So one of the things that kind of has come to my mind as I've been thinking about different people who have had stories about their identity, and some have been, confining. I've had very confining views about myself and who I was, and some have been quite liberating. And one that's been liberating is a friend of mine named Jim. Now, Jim used to live in my neighborhood, and he was an awesome guy. He was a car mechanic, and he could fix just about anything. And he got in his mind, he worked at a dealership downtown in their service department. He got in his mind one time that he wanted to start this petroleum company where he was like installing, gas pump kind of things. Well, he went off to do that, and it didn't work out really well. And it wasn't anything that he had done, but he lost his dealership license because of kind of some political things with a company that was much bigger than his company, and they took the rights to his distribution. So he had no products to sell, and he had to quit that business. So instead of going back to the company, back to the dealership to start working for them, he said, I've gotten a taste of being an entrepreneur, of being on my own, and I can do this. Even though I failed once, I can do this. So he went and started his own auto repair dealership. And I think he had like 10 bays. It was a pretty big shop that he had. And I lost touch with him for a number of years and reached out to him, thinking maybe 5 years ago, and I called him up, and it was just before Christmas. And I was asking him how his shop was doing. And he goes, "Oh, you don't know." And I was a little worried when he said that. And he said, I'm not doing that anymore. I've got my own company. And he started to tell me about how he was an app maker. Now, this is a guy who didn't go to college, he wasn't even a gamer. He wasn't a computer guy at all. He was a mechanical, fix-it-up kind of guy. But he became an app maker. And the companies that he was working for were these little tiny companies like Disney and Mattel and DreamWorks. I mean, he had these huge accounts, and they were creating these amazing apps for them. He showed me some of his work, and it was phenomenal. And I said, "Jim, how did you do it?" And he told me, he said, "I never saw myself as a mechanic. The entire time I saw myself as an entrepreneur, and I told myself, I can do it, I can learn things." And he just happened to connect with a guy that was more on the computer side, and Jim was more on the business side, and it was just a perfect match for them to work together. Anyway, that's kind of an example of how you think about yourself. The identity that you put on yourself can be limiting, or it can be freeing. If you see yourself as "I'm just and then fill in the blank, that may actually confine you. Even if it's a positive identity, if you don't leave a little bit of open space to where you can grow into something even better and bigger and more beautiful. Anyway, I hope that makes some sense on your identity. But I was thinking a lot about that as I'm kind of shifting gears into core beliefs and, core stories and strategic beliefs, how we can really be focused on that. So anyway, I just had that thought. Anybody else have anything that they would like to chat about while we got this group coaching call going? Okay. Well, that may just about wrap it up for this month. Just wanted to share those things. Hopefully that helps you. Hopefully, as you think about what you truly believe, who you think you are, and if you wonder if that's going to limit you or if it's going to free you, just kind of Anyways, it's going to be a fun journey. You're going to find out a lot more stuff on the show when we get new shows pushed live. I have a really fun one that launches tomorrow that has a demonstration in there. And it's really about if you want to be more likable. How would you like to be more likable at work? And there's a demonstration that will forever stick in your mind. And it'll be really clear on how you do that, because we're looking at the most likable people on the planet and figuring out how can we mimic them. What is it that they do that we can tap into and be more of? So I would share that with you tonight, but really it's such a visual thing that you have to watch that. So hopefully you'll check that out, youtube.com/Scott Wilhite. Hope that helps you out. And thank you for joining me this month on the coaching call. Remember, if you have any questions that you want to have submitted in advance, you can email those to me and I will go over those next month, the first Tuesday of every month. And then if you want to just chime in when we're here live, you can do that as well. So thank you. I hope you've enjoyed this, and we'll see you next month.